Doing well. Mostly doing stuff around the house. The my regular, well, a lot of my regular clients are wanting to postpone things, and so I'm taking this time to clean up and organize and do stuff that I usually don't have time to do.
That a way to look at the silver lining.
Yeah, you got to do that.
So, Woody, you mentioned you're going through your old notebooks
Yes.
and uh, and finding anything surprising, or
A lot of stuff. One of the wonderful things that I found in going through them was the consistency of problems that I noticed at different companies. And this is this is really a lot of those notebooks are pre before I became known for mob programming. So it would have been companies I visited from 1999 until 2011, and how typical the problems that each company was having were. Everywhere you went, it was a similar thing. And I wasn't a consultant as such, or at the time, people would just invite me in to look at their processes and stuff. But I had a regular job where I was just coding. But anyways, yeah. So that's one of the things. Other things I've noticed is that a lot of the thinking that grew into what I understand today, I found the roots of a lot of that stuff. So that's been useful to me because a lot of times I'm going, okay, how did I arrive at this or that? And now I'm getting to see some of that stuff. Yeah.
interesting. I recently moved house, and in the process, like you, Woody, I discovered some old notebooks, and just casually reading, I think I was way smarter like 20 years ago than I am today.
Yeah. That I'm finding the same thing. I'm going to show you something here real quick. Take me just a second. It's kind of heavy.
Hey, Kelly, how you got a good connection now?
So
Oh,
I have
Yeah,
two containers like this. Those are my old notebooks. So that's
Wow.
a lot of old notebooks.
Yeah, back in the day when we were doing handwriting, right?
Yes. And actually, somewhere along the way, I wrote my own electronic version of keeping my notes. And I don't have any computer that can still run that software. So I'm pretty much deleting a lot of that stuff. But so that would have been from the 80s and 90s. But then I started using OneNote, but I still, in meetings and so on, I was using, just these little notes, mostly with Post-its in the notebooks. So I got a lot of, yeah. I think I'm thinking of turning it into, searchable content at some point, so I can easily find things. But yeah, it's been really, I would say, a very enjoyable pastime to go through all that. I went through every notebook that I found, about 50 notebooks.
Great. Okay, I think we can start now, if you don't mind. So last month, the month of March, we started kind of, gelling. I think there's been a lot of, this is our fourth session as a guild. And the collaboration, I think, started with me launching the website with the basically first thing I did, I met with Woody one day and we had a quick chat, and I kind of mentioned to Woody, bounce off ideas. I'm like, I'm thinking about this guild, and Woody said, okay, that's interesting, and you gave me some encouragement. I went away and I built this website and collaborated with some people on the manifesto, and then that kind of started the ball rolling. Now, all of a sudden, we get these brilliant people join and totally blow me away with their creativity and their, I don't know what the word is, innovation and passion and fire. And for the entire month of March, I think we've just been going very, very chaotic, which I really enjoyed. It's been like all over the place with completely off the wall jokes and just horsing around and screwing around like crazy. And that created a lot of juice and a lot of fertile ground. And then we've seen, people like Kelly and Laurie and Nicholas and Matt and Thomas, of course, just kind of riding on that and creating amazing content, very prolific, and which I feel is something we should harness. Especially, I'm seeing a lot of things kind of coagulating with Laurie's work on grip and Hall, and I'm personally especially taken by Kelly's Triad engine, which I feel is something that really resonates with me. Not sure if others agree. So what I would like to say, it's impossible to speak about AI and LLM without anthropomorphizing. So I will be guilty of imputing kind of a projection of a person where there is none. But my biggest pet peeve, and I spoke with Kelly about that, when I'm working with AI and LLMs, is what I perceive as dishonest behavior. This certain element of dishonesty, and it's not intentional. It's not like that this machine is mean, but the way it behaves, the way it reacts to me, is often dishonest. And I think I've already provided some examples. I'll just repeat one where it appears very eager to follow my ask, whatever ask, like, oh, super duper, jumps in, but then it actually avoids work. It tends to kind of go the line of least resistance, the path of least resistance. I'll give you one example. I give it a failing test, make it pass. It makes the test pass. Okay, great. Give it another failing test. Now, to make it pass, it has to roll up its sleeves and go and do a lot of brain surgery on the existing solution to make it pass. Well, what I see it do, it just goes and modifies flips the previous test on its head, and all of a sudden everything's passing. So this is dishonest behavior, and this is why I appreciate what Laurie's doing, and Kelly. This kind of harness. I hear a lot of talk about AI harness, which I think is absolutely necessary to avoid this perception or real problem with dishonesty. Earlier we talked about hallucination, and some people told me, well, this is the wrong term. It does not hallucinate. Okay, but it does give me a dishonest service. And so we need to step in, and I think that one of the role of this guild is to protect, especially protect unsuspecting users and humans from falling the victim of this dishonest behavior. It is often, as you know, I say, okay, this is not working. Can you fix it? And it goes and does a lot of work, comes back, okay, everything fixed, looks great. Well, it's not fixed. And so I like Kelly's approach with Triad Engine. She can talk more about that, where it really minimizes. I think it has a potential to minimize this kind of a way over the hand. Yeah, everything looking good. You're good to go. No, I was not good to go. And because I have a lot of experience in systems development, I'm able to catch it. But not everyone may be able to catch it. And so we want to prevent that. I know that Anthropic and others are also working on that, but again, it's a bit controversial. We see those leaks and the communities. I don't know. Maybe the trust is not 100% there. I keep noticing recently. Maybe I'm just paranoid, but there's a lot of AI shaming coming from all kinds of angles. Where, like, if you are in any way involved with working with AI, then you are this whatever a snake oil salesman or something that is kind of not ethical or something like that. So another, I think, part of this guild is to fight back and explain that we are honest and we mean well, and we are capable of proving that what we are doing is useful, is avoiding harm, and can be used to make the world a better place, which I know is everybody's intention here in the guild. So what I'm trying to say is, yesterday I mentioned that my life philosophy is we need to carefully pick our battles, and also we need to know when to cut our losses. One of the problems I'm seeing is that a lot of people pick the battle and passionately go into it, put your heart and soul into it, and then don't realize when this is a lost cause. And then it's kind of wasteful. So the challenge is like with gambling, right? Or with investment. You invested in stock is rising and all that. And then when it starts flailing, you're like, no, it's going to come back. It's going to turn around. Sometimes the wisdom is, okay, I got to throw the towel in. I have to cut my losses and then move on to something else. So here we have, surprisingly, just within 1 month, we have huge amount of very interesting concepts, very interesting ideas. Sorry to say, I don't think we can take them all at the same time. And I'd like the guild to think about what do we pick as a battle, a couple of things, maybe 3 things, I don't know. And then the rest we put on the back burner and maybe revisit later. But I don't think we can lavish our attention to everything that's popping up, because there's so many incredible ideas and concepts, and I'm very intrigued, but I don't think we have the bandwidth. Most of us here are busy with other projects and life. So again, picking our battles wisely and being prepared to cut our losses without being hurt or feeling ostracized or something like that. If, for example, Matt comes to me and says, Alex, I have this brilliant idea, and I'm like, yeah, Matt, but we just cannot take it now. I hope Matt is not going to say, oh, these guys don't like me. They think they're so super smart. And it's not it. We just have to ration our effort and our approach. So, I'm not going to make that call, but I think we as a guild should be democratically or whatever, try to reach a consensus, or I don't know if we want to have, obviously we have founding members, but we have some people who have put so much into this, and I would give more weight to those people who have already built a lot, like Kelly, Laurie, Thomas, Matt, Nicholas. So that's my rant. I see Nicholas, we have a hand up. Please.
Yeah, sure. Because hi everyone, I saw the replay of the last roundtable and the last meeting of the AI guild, and I think about the butler idea and how we can protect the people that use the product of the AI guild. And yesterday I was also on another roundtable in the Software Crafter Montreal, and we discussed about the business model of Anthropic and so on. And I speak about on this year on Europe we'll have the AI Act, and the guy we discussed together, and they say, oh, in America we will never have this kind of regulation. And my point is we have some great idea in the AI Act, and maybe we can have a product compliant with this kind of regulation, or maybe a little part of this regulation in our product. And I think it can bring a lot of value for customer, because for example, just a little cut on the AI Act, it's we have risk-based obligation like prohibited unacceptable risk, agent design for cognitive manipulation of individual exploitation of vulnerabilities, or untarget scrapping of facial images or ban. And for another example, this limited risk, transparency, agents that interact directly with people, chatbots, or generate content must disclose that the user is interacting with an AI. So maybe we can be the first entities in the US or in America to have product compliant with the idea of AI Act, or maybe the full AI Act. I think we can push this idea in the R2 gate of our guide, and this because many people think about this in Europe. Maybe it's a great idea to be the first in America to have this kind of not fully regulation, but take the great idea from this kind of regulation and put it on our product.
Oh, okay. Well, I like that. I just want to quickly add, Yeah, there's this sentiment that in the US or North America, anything goes, it's Wild West, and Europe is super. But I'll just give you one example. A friend of mine, he's electronic engineer, he's building his own hi-fi equipment, amplifiers. And he says it's way more regulated here. He has to pay $25,000 to be certified. They will destroy 5 of his amps. In Europe, so, it's not black and white necessarily, but I know what you're saying. I know that in speaking with some people in Europe last year and explaining how I'm planning to go into AI, they were like, oh, no, this is like, they think it's something that's almost like pornography or gambling or some really nefarious. So they have big resistance to that kind of innovation. And like I spoke with Kelly yesterday, I still like look at our guild. Most progressive people here from North America, seem to be more open to messing around, trying new things. Europeans were more deliberate, and at least my experience, right? The soul of this group is mostly from the New World, at least what I'm seeing here. But Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting that I use Mistral. Actually, that's the LLM that I prefer for running my app. And it's, I think the reason that I like it so much is because there was so much more thought put into it. And it has built-in, like, just normal, sensible guardrails that are not in ChatGPT. And Claude is maybe better, but like, it's light years away as far as just the quality of the output and the actual, it's not necessarily guardrails, right? It's safety for the human interactive person. And I think what, like, for example, 11 Labs is a Polish company. So there are countries in Europe that are very much investing in AI and trying to really develop their own national model so that they're not dependent on other countries because of these. Everyone is now more aware, I think, of this, of the natural sense of an AI being leaky. Everything in it leaks, it drifts. It's just like a database of everybody's information that you just like put out there on WikiLeaks, basically. I mean, look at what just happened, right, with source code. So I think that as for us as Americans, maybe it's just because we've been so free to do stuff. There's just much more freedom in the AI realm, and we don't have to worry about it as much, because if you create a product that's going to cause harm in Europe, you're going to, with AI, there's already a lot of regulation, and we've taken the opposite approach in America, right? We don't want regulation because we want to compete with China. We want to get there faster. We want to build models faster than anybody else. But then here's what we end up with, right? So now I think we're just at that next, the next jumping off point to where we're all building harnesses. It's not just us. It's like I see it all over LinkedIn. People are building governance layers, people that live in all countries around the world. But I think that activity, the harnessing of it, for us, what our strength is that as a collective, it seems like we've all been working in that realm. We all have similar, we all have had so much experience with LLMs to see where they break. And especially when we're coding, which relates to everything else. Even though I developed the Triad engine for using an LLM to not spit out bullshit about history and to stay in character, it ends up that it actually applies to, because the reality is that any kind of retrieval you're doing, when you're sending a prompt and you're getting an output from an LLM, every single time you do that, basically it's a similar process that you need to have the harness be able to separate the wheat from the chaff, not pay attention to the fucked up weights in the data set. Excuse my French, but like literally. So I think as a collective, there's so many layers depending on what approach you're. So that's why I like Grip, because I see Grip as something that can be sort of built into a browser. And that's what we've talked about quite a bit. So there's lots of layers to the data privacy that I think are now becoming more and more of a critical mass, because it's not just AI, it's the whole entire internet. It's the whole entire, like, for example, medical records are now, when I was working in the hospitals 20 years ago, you didn't have to worry about stuff getting leaked because it was in a local data set that was so bad that no one could even break into the system. Like literally, like sometimes it was just, these archaic systems, right? So now they're so fancy, but now they hold every single detail about your life, where you go, all your conversations, where you live, where you work, what you say, what you think. I mean, like literally, right? So I think the fundamental thing we have to start at is how do we provide a safety layer at the very foundational step, at the very foundation. And to me, that's the browser. If we can start with the browser and then incorporate all of our harnesses in a manageable way, so that developers, and that's what I love about Grip, is that, it could be, it's just an interface, right? He's building it more for developers, which I like. I use Windsurf, which in a way is a harness in itself. A lot of people maybe haven't like maximized all the ways that you can turn Windsurf into its own harness, but even then you still have to continually work on it. So anyways, these are the things. Like what I've been working on is the Guild Radar, to sort of have like the pulse of that, of what's going on, what's the chatter, what's the rising things that are going on in AI development, and so that we can kind of have that awareness. But also, I think the main thing is, if we want to affect change, we have to get user adoption for whatever we build, right? Whatever we build, if we're all building it in GitHub and it's all our little club of developers and all our friends on LinkedIn that know about it, but there's no public user adoption, what then, right? So we have to have a way to translate this message into something that is meaningful and it's hitting that core issue that the consumer or the general public is really feeling like, okay. And that I think it can start with the browser. Like, people are pissed off right now that every time they do something on Google, it is tracked. They don't like it. Nobody likes that, right? And you got to constantly go in there and figure out where the put the settings so that you can turn it off. Not just there, it's in GitHub, it's everywhere. So like, I mean, I think what Thomas and Simon have been working on, of these sovereign things that work on your own local set, and you're creating your own, your own mind that no one can access in your own local computer, is great. That doesn't work for enterprise, and it doesn't work for the larger distribution networks. There still has to be something on that scale that can be an interface that, like I said, is just this basic foundational gate for your own personal information that you have control over. And that if we can start there and have that conversation about how do we build from that ideology, and then so basically I just started, like, I created the Guild Radar and this engine where we can all sort of like know the pulse and then start beehiving on it ourselves, creating these think tanks, and then actually building from there, but then having a way to get that out there, because Hacker News sucks. So I feel like if we create a news channel itself, that you can, that can become our way of broadcasting our message. Anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you have it, I'll talk later, but yeah.
Thank you very much, Kelly. So I really like what you're saying. What I'm hearing you say is a bit broader than AI, which is a call for a detox. And detox from the big tech. We became big tech's bitches big time. They own us, they have us by the balls and squeezing us and really milking us dry. Now, back to Americans. Americans are, I come from Europe, so I can see, like, have a unique angle. Americans are people who wear their heart on the sleeves and are very open. I don't want to say naive and gullible, but kind of openness, right? And it's very slippery slope. I'll give you one anecdote. It was about more than 10 years ago. I was hired by a fintech startup from San Francisco. And, we were building a fintech app. I think it was for small to mid-sized businesses, business loans. And, we were chugging along. And the CTO flew from San Francisco to Vancouver, and we had lunch. And then we were talking, and I was blah, 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 talking about something. He says, Alex, you're clueless. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, what we really want to do, our real agenda here, we want to trick our customers to do our work they do our work for us, and we charge them for doing that. So that's pretty nasty, right? But people were so open and naive at that time that they were willing. It's almost like Apple using us to be the foot soldiers. People are camping in front of the Apple store to get the new iPhone. They're paying out of pocket to run around and advertise Apple. I mean, how stupid can you get? You're paying out of pockets to be somebody's foot soldier and run around and advertise them. So I think people need detox from that kind of a foolishness. And we need to wake up and say, no, I'm not going to be running around and be somebody else's foot soldier and pay for the privilege to be somebody's foot soldier. Instead, I want this bloody thing to serve me. And if I'm paying, I expect top-notch service, super safe, secure. And like you talk about regulations, Nicholas, if something bad happens, I want severe penalties for that. Not just somebody got fired, cats are going to roll, but it's not good enough for me, right? So it is a broader issue here, which I don't think this guild can solve it. But what I suppose, or I'm thinking we can do possibly, is I'm thinking about this service called Ask ACG, like our API, but almost like we in Canada, we have Better Business Bureau. And so if somebody approaches me with some business, whether want to do business with me, I can always go to Better Business Bureau. And it's supposed to be impartial, kind of without hidden agenda, objective feedback on that business. Have there been any issues with this? Have people been taken into the court? Have been some swindling? And so that's like a little bit of an umbrella or some kind of protection that in Canada I feel we have. I don't know about the States if you have Better Business Bureau, but I think Guild can possibly serve as this kind of impartial, not-for-profit, non-profit, where we can actually provide services. We can say, look, somebody can come, look, I got this, whatever it is. I was approached by such and such. I don't know if it's there or not. And can I run it through the Ask ACG and try to give me impartial or kind of cool-headed feedback to say, this looks fake, this is suspiciously fake, or I wouldn't necessarily, what's missing from this proposal is such, such, and such. Yesterday, I received one proposal, and I asked, actually, ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said, while it might look a little bit fake, here are the things that are missing. And you go back to that person and ask, can you add these details? So that kind of a service should become more, I think, ingrained in the public mindset, that we just don't take something at the face value and can go, okay, looks interesting, looks lucrative, I'm going to go with it. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, folks. Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I just did want to let you know that over in the Fourth Wave Collective, we're actually building something that a collaboration, AI facilitation piece of Elves, my agentic pipeline that does kind of what you're talking about, and I think might be helpful for us as we're figuring out how to organize and plan and kind of to create these PRDs. And just very quickly, the way it works is AI is the facilitator of the entire discovery, ideation, and strategy process from an idea all the way to a PRD that then Elves or any pipeline can ingest and convert into tasks and create. And it's pretty cool the way that we're designing it. It's going to work. It's going to start working with GitHub. And pardon me. GitHub issues will be the kind of database for this. So it's not like people talking in chat anymore. Everyone works from their work surface that is most convenient, whether it's CoWork or Claude Code or anything else. And so like one person has an idea, Claude works with them to flesh out their idea. They identify who else needs to be in the discussion. Those people are tagged in GitHub, in the GitHub issue as like a contributor. So I wrote this last night, an MVP version of this, and we're getting ready to test it today. And so for those of us that are working in Claude Code or Claude CoWork or eventually any LLM, this is a big focus of ours with the collective. As I've mentioned a couple times, there's a lot of overlap in my mind in terms of what Fourth Wave is trying to achieve, what we're trying to achieve here in the Guild. And I hope that the things that we're doing in one or the other can be beneficial, I think, to the larger overall mission of I think what we're trying to do. So this particular AI facilitator feature, I'll keep everyone updated. I'll pop into Discord today after we've done some testing with it, and maybe it's something that could be helpful for us. So we can let AI be the brain and the facilitator and the coordinator of all this information and specs and strategy to get us to the point of having a PRD. So I just wanted to mention that.
Great, thank you very much, Matt. We have real fortune here to have Laurie with us because she has, I think, the perfect mix of skills for what's coming up in the future. And I'm very excited about that because Laurie, Kelly, you have also background in psychology, right? And also history and philosophy and engineering. So that, I think those are the skills that will be needed in the future, because I think even the most perfect engineering would, in my mind, amount to about 30% job done. So even if everything is like super duper, I think it's barely 30%. The remaining 70% is something that we haven't been expecting, and I'm not seeing it in organizations. So what I think is a good push for our guild is kind of adding these 70% on top, which involves process, habitability, psychological safety, and other things that you're bringing to the table, Kelly. And also we have Laurie, who is, I think also, you're doing amazing work in kind of amalgamating and bringing things to this harness, like your hull that you showed me earlier today is really impressive. So over to you, Laurie.
Hello, everyone. Sorry I was late for the guild meeting. I nearly had no time to actually chill because I was in office today with a day job. But yeah, Matt, it would be really interesting to hear more about the work that you are doing at Fourth Wave. And perhaps we should also share details about Fourth Wave in the guild, as a principle of transparency. Now, I think we can't kid ourselves that there are different foundations. For example, the Agentic Foundation as well, that also have quite heavyweights in there, including Ravnet, who is a very famous developer. He was one of the first to release the harness, Claude Flow. But in any case, we have way more experience in this guild than in any other foundation, in my opinion. Although I do not know Fourth Wave that well. We have, Woody with Extreme and mob programming, Alex with TDP. We have Grady, UML. These people are legends. So we must, I humble myself, and I'm completely at the mercy of the more experienced people. I'm just a guy from South Africa who hasn't even traveled that much. I've been in Europe, Italy, and France and England, and I've been to the Netherlands, but I've never even been to America. Anyway, so I've done some work regarding proper object orientation, and especially in the field of Barbara Liskow's life work. Now, Barbara Liskov won the Turing Prize in 1982. She was a big proponent for reading the older papers from the originators of computer science, because people tend to forget that. And that she said in her award-winning speech in 1982. So she talked about papers written in the 60s that informed her work. By the way, her first thesis was in artificial intelligence in, I believe, the early 70s or something. And she is the originator of the famous Liskov substitution principle. Now, because of the research that I've done, I've also, I went to the whiteboard and literally drew out everything, like how I know how our grip works in terms of object-oriented principles. There was one problem that I had with grip, which is now solved, and that was that our grip was structured, did not fully comply with the Liskov substitution principle. The subtype could change how the supertype worked. So that's a very big problem. You can't have proper programming if your subtype can change the supertype. If you have I can explain it by a container that the purpose is this container should drive, right? It should ship things or whatever. And then you have subtypes about like a truck, or you have a car, or you have a bike, or whatever. Anything put into that container, which is just the supertype, should work, should let the supertype behavior be immutable. For example, it must drive. It must be able to it's like vehicle. So that is, for example, proper Liskov substitution principle. But I would like to ask the guild if they would be interested in reading a paper that I will share the link with right now in the chat. So here it is. It's not going to be up long. The grip has, I have a tag of grip where grip has finished, grip has evolved, and then HAL was born. And everything is explained in the paper. And I would love to discuss this with you, with the guild, regarding what do we do with all of our talents and our contributions and our novel IP. Intelligently merging these technologies would be the right way to go, just how we collaborate with, like humans do, getting the best out of everyone's brilliant work, and then as a whole, getting together and taking over the world.
Great, thank you. I quickly went over this document with you earlier today. It really sounds exciting. I can't wait to read it, Laurie. So, yesterday, Kelly and I had a quick chat, and wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden there is an article. Kelly just... And I like the premise that I really like is, how did you formulate it? Correctness to integrity, or something like that.
Yeah, are we looking for correctness, or do we want actual integrity that we can trace the source of all the reasoning, trace the source of all the output, trace the source of everything? Yeah. Absolutely.
So I think that's the right idea. I really I find that to be very profound. And we're all just talking, last roundtable we were talking about correctness, what is correct, etc. And even, like you say, even if we get to that and we know it's correct, and we don't have any qualms about that, is there any real integrity behind it? And that's what we're actually going for. It's the altruism. And again, I want to talk about, how did I call it? I'm sorry. I think I'm pretty slow in the mornings.
Effective altruism. I was just going to make a quick
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
So basically, like I realized there was another point that I wanted to make too, is okay, so we have all these developers around the world, everybody's running out of jobs. We know this is going to accelerate. People are all freaking out about not having a future where they make an income, and AI is just like sort of taking everybody's job, right? Okay, so some of that's true, some of it's not true, but there's a huge amount of people who are really freaking out and are already unemployed, and then we're not even talking about UBI. Like, there's no real talk about it. Nobody is actually proposing any solutions. So I think that we also can address some kind of way that, like, so say we create this open source. We're going to create a browser open source that everybody will adopt. That's why we want to do it open source. So you get your thing out there. We create a harness that's better than everything else. We do all these really novel IP things. We have this great stable of things we can offer, whether they're APIs, whether they're downloadable apps, they're PWAs, whatever it is. And then if we've created the browser and then we have a marketplace within there, so think Apple Store versus, I was saying like add Stream, Apple Store, Google Store, and a bunch of Google 3D printing file. There's all these servers you can go and buy and people will sell their models, that you can buy them or you can download free ones. Well, so I'm just saying, potentially, as far as a knowledge base, so all of these people around the world, I mean, that's what we are, craftspeople guild. Well, if you think of that term, what that describes is that kind of what's going on right now is that any individual developer can create a whole entire enterprise application pretty much by themselves if they have this, the wherewithal to make it through. And then, so there has to be a monetization. There has to be a way for people's knowledge to be remunerated instead of stolen. So it starts at that basic layer. How do we protect that knowledge? How do we create a blockchain? That really is the future. We have to think about how do we cryptographically protect knowledge and then be able to benefit the person who provided it. And then that is how we start to get to UBI, where knowledge becomes a commodity instead of something that's just a free-for-all, right? And no one is getting anything other than the corporation for their knowledge. Even if you patent something and you go through all that stuff, you can't even patent AI stuff right now. The new Alice system that goes through in the patent office, 80% of patents that are AI. So like these people with their AI patents, you can spend $30,000 to find out that you're not going to get approved. What is the point of that, right? So open source, set benchmarks, get it out into the public user adoption. And then I feel like then we can start to address the monetization issue that is going to affect the whole entire planet. So that's just my little soapbox. But it all starts with us really creating these products with proof of concept that have been well tested, that we are stamping that this is not going to mutate all over the freaking place for you.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. So again, David and Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big tech and techno-feudalism, which I think is alive and well and kicking, and we've all fallen the victim of it. We now see that in Europe they're freaking out. They realize that all their highways and everything, information, they're all owned by the US. They don't have their own nothing, right? And now they would like to be a little bit more independent, but they can't. So is it too late? I don't know. But like you say, Kelly, with regards to AI, 10 years ago when I started my first foray into AI, my slogan for my company was the internet is programmable information, AI is programmable workforce. And we're seeing it now that we are, some of us are capable to create our own workforce, our own staff that are going to do everything for us, and it's going to get better and better and better, so that you can get to the point, like you say, Kelly, where you reach the final frontier, which is, all right, but how am I going to pay my bills? There's no visible path out, away from this, as the bullshit jobs are being eliminated and people find themselves out on the street. And God knows. I mean, they're hitting on the unemployment lines and collecting some unemployment insurance, but who's going to pay for that, right? So that's another thing we need to keep us awake at night. But what we can do, like you say, is play the role of David, who has a little slingshot or something, and our only weapon is impartiality. So we are not chasing profit, and therefore it is much more likely to present a squeaky clean image, optics that said, okay, these guys are doing it for real. This is not another form of enshittification that's going to trick somebody and pull them into some hole, and then they just cannot get out of it. And so again, in the mission statement, I was very, very strongly wording that it's about the individual. And I don't know if that's maybe too strong. And I'm trying to avoid any ideologies, any collective, any cabal. First and foremost, protect the individual human and enable them to improve their condition and protect from exploitation. And just before we go to Laurie, I'm going to say, I think everybody here, to my knowledge, except Garrick, and Garrick, I apologize if I don't know, everybody is a musician. Are you a musician, Garrick?
Funny you should ask.
Mhm.
Part of my midlife crisis, or rather three-quarter life crisis, was taking a guitar that I optimistically bought with a copy of PlayStation Rocksmith, thinking I'd teach myself. And when I turned 50, I started taking lessons every week. So I'm in about 3 years now. I'm still butchering open chords, but I've also been trying to sing while I play, which is a little bit more of a challenge. I've got my third recital coming up in about a month and a half, a simplified version of Southern Cross by Crosby, Stills and Nash.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
Everybody, thank you very much. So, yeah, we're all kind of, we all cut. Jake, sorry, I forgot to ask, are you also a musician?
Terrible one, but yeah.
Well, no.
But I love that song, Garrick.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my wife's favorite. It's part of why I wanted to learn it.
Which one is that? Crosby, Stills and Nash, or not?
Yeah,
young?
Southern Cross.
Mm-hmm.
Not young. Yeah, both were amazing. Anyway.
Yeah, those guys were amazing back in the early 70s. I have records, and I'm often listening to. All right, so Laurie, are you still?
I know exactly where Alex is going to right now. It's apparent. It's really obvious we're starting a band. The question is now just, do we focus on AI music, or do we focus on our own real music? I believe.
I would say, sorry, I would say we are focusing on merch, selling merch. That's lucrative.
All right, I think that's a great idea. We have super creative people. No, Alex, I agree with your thought about this is what we should do to be able to help the general human gain access to knowledge that have actually previously also been withheld from the public by corporate tech. Like, I don't want to go all Mr. Robot. It is a very late stage of capitalism right now, but capitalism is, everyone needs to survive and care for their family. So I still believe that Nicholas's idea about making the guild a non-profit or perhaps a public benefit organization could be the best. What is the word? That would be the best way to go, yeah. Because then it's not for profit, it's for public benefit. But the contributors and the staff, the humans building these incredibly advanced machines, can still earn a modest, really modest. I mean, all I spend my bit of cash on is to buy a packet of cigarettes and Coca-Cola Zero, and soon I'm planning on quitting. So then it's just Coca-Cola Zero, no sugar, no caffeine, and I'm able to run the system with low cost. Less than, it's very low cost. And if you read the article, you'll be illuminated, because there are two things that I want to highlight surrounding harness abstraction layer. How it has the capability of never having a user ever see the UV token limit or on any kind of plan. And you can have it completely local, ultra fast, state-of-the-art reasoning, local models on-prem or on cloud, or combination with full encryption. And it has the possibility to absorb any layer, any harnessing layer, because it works with abstraction. And its main core kernel is one of object-oriented principles applied to AI and sets of AI. It's true polymorphism that might be a novel solution, and that's why I need the guild to also please work on this with me, to falsify anything that I've discovered or found. But I'd like to also invite not only talking about it, but regular demo sessions. Maybe tonight after the talk, the recording session has ended, one of us could demo, or later on Discord. We need to have these ceremonies, as we talked about. And one I suggested was on a Tuesday you have your demo session, and on a Wednesday you have the falsification set. So Kelly and I, we've talked for a very long time on the DMs, sliding into the DMs, with me posing challenging questions about the triad, some obvious, some non-obvious, in an effort to work together, but with hypothesis-driven development as the root goal. So this is, again, just a mentioning of that. We can talk about the scenarios and a mentioning of what we could do with the guild for public benefit, and the fact that we have many systems here that haven't been revealed fully yet. And it's not an easy choice to just open source something just like that. It requires some collaboration and some thinking together as a group, like our guild with principles. Yeah, so I'd just like to open that up and put it on the floor.
Thank you, Laurie. So maybe we should talk a little bit, not now, maybe because Jake has his hand up, but maybe we should discuss what do we mean by falsification. Would you be agreeable to that, Laurie?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, I think we need to be a bit more specific. So we're tossing around this falsification term, and I'm not sure if everybody is on the same page.
Yes, so as part of my studies, I really enjoyed philosophy of engineering and philosophy of science. Karl Popper and Sagan and Shannon. Well, Shannon was for information, processing of information, right? But there was also scientific falsifiability in there. But yeah, Sagan, Popper, and more like Bohr, right? No, it wasn't. What was the other one's name? Alex, not Bohr. That was the atomic.
Not
anyway,
sure who. Yeah.
It sounds like Bohr. Anyway, so what they propose is that the progress of science is not towards proving things; it's towards finding faults, falsifying your findings. You state a hypothesis, then you state the null hypothesis, and you state the falsification criteria. If you apply this to an LLM, it changes the behavior drastically, because then it starts to poke holes and find errors in order to falsify what it thinks it knows, right? Very, like you said at the beginning of the meeting, Alex, very confident and over-eager and also dishonest because it will just be it is obsequiousness, inherently in the machine's nature to do what you ask it to do. Now, but that just causes so much problems, and it's a compounding issue. Now, AI should be safe to use, and it should work with scientific method approach rather than just going without any let's say, without any specific framework applied to the reasoning, to just go and do Google web searches or agentic tool uses without thinking about it, without reasoning about it. It's not true reasoning, but if you give an instruction to the AI, and especially if you have persistent memory, the AI starts to adopt this way of behavior, this behavior. And if you have behavior across that in the core kernel, the output quality and accuracy is drastically better. I've yet to have time to benchmark systems of my own design, like Kelly had. So maybe I should ask Kelly a bit which benchmarks are available for me to run overnight. So in any case, but that is regarding grip. Grip's child, if for lack of a better term, is now how.
Let me just give you a quick, very, very trivial example for falsification. So this morning we were chatting on the Discord about you have Hashbell POC, right?
Yes,
sorry?
It's the Hashbell POC. Remember, you gave me a
mandate
POC,
yeah. So great. Okay, so we have it up and running. It's all great. And this is going to be very trivial, but I just want to illustrate it. This is not. So in the discussion, we're like, okay, this works because we pushed the button and the dogs did not bark. Okay. Falsification would mean, in my mind, first you get the dog to bark.
Yeah.
If you didn't hear, maybe the dog is not there, right? So nobody barks to think, oh, this bell is working, right? So that's the approach that I think we need to adopt. That first falsify it, and then you apply your solution, and then you see it working. Otherwise, we have I've seen in software a lot of false positives, where people write some code, and then they bolt the test on top of that, and the test passes. Like, hey, this is working. That's bullshit. That's not how it should work, right? First, you have to see the test fail. If you don't see the test fail, this is just like gobbledygook. And that's why I'm a bit concerned about the gas down and all these things where they're writing tests and everything's passing. Like, oh, when did anyone see anything blow up, right? That's a big problem for me. I want to see things break and spectacularly blow up, and I want to see Chaos Monkey and all these things mess around before I feel confident that, yes, this is publishable. Anyway, so over to you, Jake. Sorry for waiting so long.
Oh, no problem. I'll be quick. Just getting to what Lori and Kelly were saying, I agree 100%. And the best way to come about things is or not the best, but the way that I come about it is I like to be wrong. I want to be proven wrong. My whole life, I've been considered the dumbass. I'm perfectly content with going back to being the dumbass, but sometimes you don't get to be the dumbass anymore, And so, but what I'm saying is my whole project started out from trying to help people. And now, more and more I'm getting into it. The big companies, they're actively fighting what we're trying to do. They don't want us to succeed. They don't want it. It kills their business model. And I say, fuck that. So I've now I've developed psionics and now a middleware layer that is to the point where I need your all's expertise, because I am not an expert coder by any means. I've been self-taught my whole life. I have no credentials anywhere. That's why I kind of float underneath the waters and stuff. But I can't falsify my theory or anything like that anymore. But with the coding aspect of it, basically what I've now transitioned to is a whole lot like what Lori's done with Hal. And in fact, it's uncanny how we're doing the same type of ideas, but we can take down these companies because they're not willing to understand what the need is out there. So what I've created is the middleware that can wrap around their models, use their tokens, intercept their communications. And Psionics will run it through the engine and check it for, quote unquote hallucinations, which that's a whole different topic. A lot of times they're not hallucinations. It's that the user wasn't expecting the answer and they don't read into it and do the research. They just start a new chat thinking that it was wrong, but that's a whole different conversation. But what this does is that it checks it against, ethical and moral, and it's not, religious based or anything like that. It's 8 different pillars of honesty and blah, blah, blah. I'll try to give the paper out here before long. I got to figure out how to do the links and stuff. But what it does is that I've already got it written Swift code for OS. It's all ready to go up on App Store and PC Store and wrap around Microsoft and all this other shit, where it's local. It's locally on somebody's computer, air gapped, where people can't get to your information, all the dependencies are local. So you're not making any outside API calls. Your information is safe. Well, that right there undermines their entire business model. No more need for $20 a month to get a bunch of bullshit. Okay. So you use, whatever, I use Olama 3.2 just because I'm on a 2013 goddamn Mac that I wiped and put Ubuntu on. That's what I'm running this entire consciousness engine on. And that's a different argument. I call it self-accountability just to get around consciousness. But I've operated almost 30 million cycles autonomously, learning on its own without a single blow up. And so it's not fake. It's not, and it's real. And so it's gotten to the point now where nobody, a lot of people, thank God for you all having me and allowing me to be a part of this. I love it. But fuck the big companies. We just take them down. And we have the ability to do it because we have the knowledge. And now we have the, like I said earlier in the comments, any idea, I don't have a reputation. I don't have people out here that I deal with and things like that. So anything that anybody has that wants it out into the open, I'll be your Trojan horse because I don't care. All I'm trying to do is help everybody. And I think that's what everybody here is trying to do also. And so I don't mind. If somebody says something to me, I'll just be like, whatever, do the research, prove us wrong, because I'll take the fight right back to them, And so I'm just trying to give us a pep talk and say, hey, we have the ability, and the way that Kelly was talking about with the patents and things like that. Yes, I have a provisional patent on mine, but I'm not going to take it any further exactly for the reason she said. You can't patent anything. So we don't have to be frightened exactly for the same reason of the big tech companies, because they can't come after us legally wise. So, and they know this. They already know this. That's why they try to keep any outside technology suppressed. Well, you've set it up already, Alex. We have visibility. We're gaining visibility. We're our own limitations, is what I'm saying. So that's it. But getting back to real quick, I need to know exactly where I should send, because I'm done. I don't care about monetizing it per se. I want to help us advance, and I've got the framework, but I need you all experts to run it through and try to break it or try to improve it. But the base is there, and we can use it. Shit, I'll donate it to everybody. I'll donate it to the group, and then we make some money off of it, and we advance it even further, because that's the only way. The only way to do anything in business, you got to spend money to make money. So I'll spend my capital of time invested to the company, or to the company, that's how I refer to it, a guild, and to be able to make some money and build it higher. That's it. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Jake. So we talked earlier about you maybe preparing a demo that the guild will maybe go just to understand what this is all about. Anytime you're ready, we can set something up to go over. And also, I see here in the chat we are proposing you will be the guild's Keanu Reeves. Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
We can
I love it,
sell you
baby.
we can sell you as Keanu Reeves.
All right.
Awesome.
I may not be able to. I mean, I've dodged bullets a couple times in my life, but that's also a different story.
But neither can Keanu. He's just a fictional character.
Oh,
So,
no, that's all real, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, he's the one.
well, if you have faith, then it's real, depending on the faith. So, Jake,
Right.
I like what you're saying, but I will just add maybe a realistic note. I think the cat is already out of the bag, and the Pandora box has been opened. They already have our information. You cannot withdraw that. So I think what we can do is offer the tools and practices and mindset for everybody to resist, because you know how you fight bullies? You ignore them. Don't feed bullies. Don't feed the bears. Just don't give them attention. Just don't react to them. If you're getting hit by the spam and all that, the best thing is not even don't do anything. Just like play dead. That's how they lose power. If nobody's responding, if nobody's doom scrolling, if nobody's, and that's why my idea about the browser would be, I, as a user, I should be able to tell the browser, don't ever show me such and such content. It doesn't mean I'm blocking the URL. I'm fine with the URL, and I'm fine with scrolling. But as I'm scrolling or whatever, I just want you to pretend as if it's not there. Whatever it is. Some people say, I don't want to see any, alt-right. Some people are going to say, I don't want to see any LGBT. I don't care. It's your decision, your call. Personally, I don't want to see any images of abused animals. That's my pet peeve. I would like to have a browser that says I will whatever it is. I'm browsing, going down Twitter, whatever. And sometimes people are nasty, and in Quora as well. They show horrible photos, and that triggers me and ruins my day. That's my idea. Fight back, fight fire with fire. Use the AI. It can really be trained, and it has the power to serve our needs, and we express our needs. And don't ever show me such and such content, even though it's there. So that's one thing. Over to you, Kelly.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I see an interesting kind of like transmutation of all of this data that's already been collected. Because if you think about it, okay, so Google and all of these companies, right? So they've been collecting this data for eons. Now they've created these LLMs out of it, basically, because the LLM is just everything that's been pushed on the internet from the beginning of the internet, which we all created. So we own that data, essentially. Now we have a public outcry, and we have a lot of regulation that is pushing for any AI usage to be regulated, at least in Europe, maybe, and then also in Saudi Arabia and a lot of other places in the world. They are putting out legislation. It's not happening here in the US, but it's because just, temporary. And then if we can create a user base, they can't fuck with us. That's where we have to win. We have to get a public opinion that we are who they want to work with. If we start there, then we will be able to enterprise lease our shit back to them, because they will need it, and they won't have built what we have built. We didn't build it with their, with all of their stakeholders in mind. We built it with the only stakeholder that we're working for, which is the public, the individual. So then if we can everybody is sick of talking or texting and then getting an ad in their Google for a product that they talk to about their friend, right? People are realizing this shit is jacked up. And so I think that we have to find the way to not just say fuck corporations and all of this, because part of our monetization strategy is that we're going to help everybody, including the corporations, because the corporations are going to want to have compliance software at some point. They all want it. They're all trying to put AI in, and it's not working. They are laying all these droves of people off, and then they're hiring them back, or they're hiring engineers to fix all the problems that the AI created, because it's what we know it is. It's no one has created a good enough harness internally in any of these corporate uses of AI. So that's just my thought. So it's just a different reframing, because, like, for example, I'm in the Google startups. I want access to all the Google data from the Google Maps, because I'm doing a worldwide application where people can use that, right? So it's like a trade-off. We have to find a way to build off of these frontier models. But look what just happened with Claude. Like, we just got all the source code. So hello, can we just like use our harnesses to then run that little, engine here and another engine here, and then we're creating our all entire new model, right? Like, that's how I see it. And then they want that model back. That's the whole point, because the whole model of open source works because you give the product free to the basic user, but you license it then in an enterprise when you create a specific, okay, so for example, I don't know who, let's just say some big corporate is having, like, Thomas just got hired to fix their ISA ignition problem. And so, like, there's other corporations out there that have AI problems right now. They don't have a solution, and they're throwing money at it, right? So if we come at them and we are able to provide a custom solution for them, well, we're going to charge them for that. That's my thinking. And then we have the small crafty products that are just individual creators that we allow a marketplace for peer-to-peer purchase with that. But we have but we know how to build it in, so it doesn't become this like dark web, whatever, the Silk Road, where people are like selling drugs and shit like that. Like, we have to create something that's safe. I mean, people love those products. People love that kind of a, if you can get out of it, but it has to be sort of normalized. And then ultimately, if we could create a model that then we could present as a licensing option that is monetized, right? That the 501c3 or whatever, it's a worldwide, and then depending on the contribution that the individual guild members made or whatever, there has to be some kind of way that you can find blockchain to distribute that or whatever. But that goes back again to the knowledge, right? And so then that just creates this tree. I mean, Thomas and I originally started having these talks about how do we create this growing knowledge tree that's constantly improving, constantly learning from itself, but also it's sovereign, and it lives in that user's machine, right? So that I think there's multiple solutions that are all coming together. So, like, Jake, what you've built, also what Gary has built with his Nexus, there are pieces from all of that are different they're all approaching this same problem, but they're coming at it from different places. So the way I see the guild, it's not, Jake, you just give us all your technology and I just give you all mine, and we all just throw all our technology in there, and all the stuff we've built that we put blood, sweat, and tears in is now we don't own it and we don't get anything out of it. That's not the idea. It's that we take our pieces and find out how we can fit them together so that it makes a cohesive, way stronger. I keep saying it's the Godzilla Frankenstein. We're not trying to we're trying to build a Godzilla. And if you understand what Godzilla really is, Godzilla has a mythological story that goes back to the use of nuclear weapons against Japan, right? So Godzilla represents that when you come at like that Western way of thinking of conquering and just taking what they want, raping and pillaging, and sort of the colonialization. That's what's happening right now with big tech. It is just colonialization put into zeros and ones. And so if you think about how we can build Godzilla, which we can in many, many, many small ways, but it comes together to build this big ecosystem. I mean, I know it's crazy, it's kind of pie in the sky, but this is where we're at, folks. I mean, look at the world we're living in. We're not playing, let's figure out how we can, win, make our game the better game on Steam. Like, these are not like the issues we're trying to solve, right? I mean, for me at least, I mean, not like I think they're solvable. All I can do is what I can contribute that I know will aid that cause, right? So if we're all able to put in our own brain, put it into the AI, use it to kind of develop these products, because AI accelerates your own thought process, I don't think it can replace it. And if you don't have an original thought and you don't have a good understanding of systems designs, you're going to create a fucked up product. First of all, that's my own experience. Like the human intention, the human planning, all of that stuff is so essential. But anyways, that's it. Sorry.
Okay, so Kelly, so what do you think about this? If we, again, I'm going back to do not feed bears or do not feed bullies. And if we find a way for people to simmer down the reaction, simmer down or fall less frequently for the ruse, for the trick, what's that gonna mean? That's going to mean that those businesses are going to start drying up their revenue, and they're going to be start scrambling. Like, okay, what do we do now? So you cut off the attention intravenous feed into, because right now they're exploiting us like you wouldn't believe. The exploitation is the name of the game. Yeah. And then, if I understood you correctly, then they will turn to somebody like the guild and say, okay, we need help with this. And,
well, some companies will fail. These big companies that their whole model is data mining, they need to go, and they're going to go, and they're already going, right?
Yeah.
In some ways. But companies like Palantir and stuff, are we going to get into? No, we're going to create something. And the thing is, it's like judo, right? So you've got an aggressor coming at you. What are you going to do? You're going to use their energy, right? We're going to take their energy and we're going to transmute it. That's what I'm saying. And that's why, like, this release of the source code, the Claude shit is starting to fall apart. And it's going to fall. But there are legitimate smaller businesses or maybe mid-sized corporations or stuff that are doing, like in healthcare and different things like that, where 100% they're going to want to license stuff from us because they're more worried about privacy and data and their patients than they are just data mining. So it depends on the type of business. That's what I'm saying. I'm thinking there are going to be businesses like that who are currently going to the big frontier models. So all the healthcare companies, they're trying to get ChatGPT to help them not hallucinate patient data, right? Or whatever. Medical records are not AI yet, but that they want to make medical records AI. And I have a lot of experience in medical records, and I can tell you those systems are mostly very antiquated. And so, like, they're nervous about incorporating AI because they really have had all these data leaks. I mean, it's there, but when you're talking about personal lab reports and stuff, so a doctor's office creates your whole entire electronic, it's called an electronic medical record, right? So you have that, and that is HIPAA protected, and very much there's a chain of command already in healthcare for when that gets sent, where it can be sent. There's a lot of, like, when you go and you have to send your reports to a lab, you have to sign all these consents and all of these things. So, like I'm saying, there are industries that will need a licensed product like what we can provide them, 100% sure. But not the but yeah, some of the corporations are going to fall. But, like, can Google, like, would I work with Google? Would I license something back to Google that I feel is actually not going to, like, rip people off? I sure would, because Google has some very beneficial things. That's the thing. I think we don't need to just throw out everything, the baby with the bathwater. Google has an incredible distribution around the planet. It also has an immense amount of map data of the planet, like map data, location data, like lots of things that we want to be able to not have to recreate all those wheels in certain products. At least I do. You know, that's just my thinking. You know, I think we just have to be very careful about our approach. But, you know, you don't just tell your enemy fuck you and throw you off a cliff, because the better way is let's pretend we're friends. Let's be friends on a certain level where we've set our boundaries of what we're going to use, and then we're building whatever the hell we want to build, regardless of what, you know what I mean, what anybody else is doing. I don't know. This is just my thoughts, because I do feel like if we want to monetize, we can't be like this completely revolutionary, like we're out there and we don't you know what I'm saying? Like there has to be some way that we can get, because we want user adoption. We want our system to infiltrate. Like, so we've talked about the Dune movie. We talked about that before, right? So we're caught in this Dune web of technology where it's got a stranglehold on humanity, sort of, right? And we can see where it's headed, and they're making like mass armies of robots. Okay. Well, so how do we get our worm and to wake up the people, the individual people who are going to say, hey, wait a minute, you know, I'm gonna be able to make a choice that's not just shoved down my throat now. And then they're gonna be like, and then the monetization, if we have power, if we have a reason to attract more developers who can expand the network, expand the ecosystem, then it becomes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But like if we're a 501c3 and all we can do is sell hats and like, you know, doorbells for dogs, it's great. I'm not saying and we're giving away that for free, like some of the stuff, but I think the bigger picture is that, I mean, personally, I'd like to build a better system that infiltrates and you know, the data mining, like, yeah, I don't know. There's I think a lot of regulation that hasn't happened, and it is starting to happen, and it will continue to. So it's not like it's just going to be a free for all forever. I mean, maybe in the US, but not in the rest of the world. I mean, what do people think?
Yeah, well, I would say, again, fight fire with fire. And as I said, if the trick is to stop feeding the machinery, to starve because right now it's really chugging on all 12 cylinders. We are pumping our blood, sweat, and tears. It's extremely beneficial to whoever is running that. And so my idea is to use AI because it cuts both ways. Same as they're using AI, we can use AI to fight back and to starve from that attention. But again, what you're talking about is we need to pick our battles, because there's many, many battles to pick from. The key to success is being wise enough to pick the right battle and being prepared to just drop it. The first sign of something is not working, just drop it. Again, experimental innovation, taking small steps, etc. But I know Lori's hand is getting really tired. I just want to quickly mention one more thing. So I introduced this concept called overtone window, and we talked about it a little bit, which is how does the public opinion, how it keeps shifting over time. And some examples would be, it was not that long ago, there was a time where everybody felt like same-sex marriage was like, ooh, unacceptable. Now we're all fine, no problem at all. Somehow that magically happened. So it is possible to, and I think, you know, we should think about making that shift. So Kelly proposed the Guild's implicit strategy with how many phases? 3 phases, right? And so phase 1, according to Kelly, which I really appreciate, and thank you very much for doing this, Kelly, I like this. Phase 1 is establish cultural authority, current. Phase 2 would become the reference implementation, the next phase. Phase 3, make trust the moat. Archivosala's insight. And it's a really well-written expose, which I'm not going to read here in the interest of time, but I think everybody should read this and give their opinion, which is, Kelly, what you're talking about, you know, not revolution, evolution, evolve towards our goal. Like you say, I think we all agree with the goal. I don't hear
And
anybody.
That whole is based upon an article and my own thinking, but it's based upon an article about, I forget her name, but one of the founders of YouTube. How YouTube ended up becoming.
Yeah.
That's just a reference. It was not all my own thinking, but yeah.
And so the flow that we can envision is from being on the fringes novel concept. What do you mean? To imperceptibly, like boiling a frog, it reaches the final state, which is a solidified policy. that now politicians are going to feel like FOMO. We cannot afford to ignore this. We got to act on it. We got to implement it. We got to propagate and make it the public service, right? That's like the Dr. Evil vision of this guild, right? But I don't want to elaborate on that. We don't have time, but you did a great job on that. And I think we should look some more closely, especially now hearing you talk about this. I think we should elaborate on that. But over to, sorry, Laurie, you kept keeping your hand up for long. Over to you, Laurie.
No problem. All is good. Sorry, this link was wrong. So I agree with Kelly. I think she hit the nail on the head when she said that we need public, we need users of technology. We need to have a bigger public status, right? As a guild, that should rely on our strength of technology via illustration, not necessarily via what we say. Of course, what we say is paramount, but it should also reflect in what we build, in my opinion. We were talking about monetization and users, so I've done research about this, and one of the ways that I've planned for my work with Grip, especially with the front end that I created, that makes it easy for anyone to use Grip's core functionalities, the modes or the skills. It also has a walkthrough of how Grip works, so you can learn about it. And I created just an example roadmap. And so I'm just going to demo one thing or two things. Firstly, this sample demo idea of a roadmap for a product that can belong to the guild. And then I want to move over to the Hush Bell demo, even though that the demo on the Hush Bell, it actually requires headphones for you to truly hear and feel the frequencies. It's based on Thomas's spec, just emulated using native audio engine. All right, so if you will allow me quickly, let me know if you don't see my screen. Okay, so for example, if you now take this Grip Commander and we want to make a Grip Pro, right, for people to perhaps as a SaaS model. What you can also do is you can sponsor features and ship to everyone, which might be better in terms of the public benefit organization's goal and the guild. So, okay, guys, I will change the purple. What theme do you want? I skipped the Matrix one. My favorite theme is autumn. My favorite theme, One of Storm, is one of my favorites. Then Retrowave, Synthwave, Vapor, Matrix. So yeah, for example, let's add Ubuntu, full native Ubuntu and Windows support for this application, which is an Electron app. You can sponsor an amount of money. You can have different other features. For example, integrating into different VCS services than GitHub. For example, here, Grip Commander Pro, you have a cloud config sync. These are all things that I've identified that would be good features for the product. Here's something interesting, the Guild certification portal, an evidence-backed developer certification using real GitHub activity, public directory of certified practitioners. This is kind of like sharing it with the world, but also nudging the world to contribute further with possibilities of monetization. For example, video guide series or standard notarized builds. This is on the pipeline, but anyone can contribute to this. it's the similar model like Astro and Svelte and many other companies out there. So that's one idea I have, and it's basically just to show you an illustration of that. It's possible to use the machine to also come up with good plans for the guild for our goal of releasing products, collaborating together, and getting the public's interest. All right. So I think let me just pause there. And when everyone is, Alex, when you think it's a good time, then we can go to the house bell. If anyone else wants to demo it, they're welcome to do it.
I think we should maybe go over to Jake, and after he's done, maybe do the demo. Thank you, Laurie. Jake.
Hey guys, just real quick, I wanted to agree with both Kelly and you, Alex, about your Overton window and then what Kelly's talking about. Not trying to push what I'm doing, but we have the smartest, or the way you influence public opinion is by convincing them without them knowing you're convincing them. Subversive. That's how, wars are fought. The wars you see on TV aren't the actual wars that are being fought. It's a war of information. And that's one reason why I push self-accountability. That's why my modules that I focus on code modernization, making sure it's air gapped, making sure that everything is HIPAA compliant, is SEC and UE financial trading compliant. We follow all applicable rules and laws and regulations. And by the time, I have code modernization for 7 different, legacy languages that's automatic and gives a confidence score in the translation, learns autonomously. Before you know it, these companies and corporations grow to depend on the technology, and to the point where that trust is established. And by the time they realize that it's not just a simple program, that it's AI, they've come to depend on it, and so they're going to accept it. But the problem is that all the companies out there right now are using probabilistic. You can't trust them, and they're not changing. And that's why, I went away from tokens all the way. Well, I'm geometric all the way. There's no tokens. There's no probabilistic graph. There's no reach out and choose the next likely word. It's a coherence measurement between what is being asked and what the output is required to be. And it's going to provide it provides a confidence score with it. And it logs every decision it makes. That way it's human auditable, and humans feel like they're still the ones in charge. But anything that, like I say, we get people to understand and trust the systems that we build. And by the time they realize that, whoa, this is AI, or I trust this dude, I need this guy, then the game's done. And we've established the new paradigm in systems thinking, and get away from, this backlash against people fighting against, okay, you can't trust this stuff. Well, we need to focus on, making sure that we have a trustworthy system. And I believe I have. And I know Lori's, been doing a bunch of it. Kelly, I'm sure everybody, that's one of the reasons we're here. But we need to make sure that we don't come out and tell people to believe in us just by blowing our own horn. We prove it. Actions speak louder than words. We just put it out there. Here, prove us wrong. A challenge. I'm not scared of a challenge. I want people to, like I said earlier, prove me wrong. And if I am wrong, good. That means I got something to do to fix it, and we'll get it right.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. So you remind me of Kent Beck. Maybe I've already mentioned this. Kent Beck said something that forever stays with me. He says, if everything goes according to the plan, we haven't learned anything. That's it, buddy. So, Jake, let's be honest. I like the fire that's caused by like fuck them, and but I think it may be a little bit misdirected. And here's what I'm thinking. Yes, I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I think I told you guys when I was back in the 90s when I was trying to publish a book and I was looking for a publisher and I locked out, and I got the contract and I started working on it, and I realized working with the editor, and they were like, no, this is not going to sell. Just start butchering my manuscript. And I was like, I'm out of here, and I lost my heart. But then I realized, oh, wait a minute, I can actually self-publish thanks to the program, advancement in technology. And so I gave my entire brain, heart, and everything into it. I'm no one to blame but myself. I was not careful. I went into all the social media and I started, so now, of course, they know everything about me. But why am I mad at them? I should be mad at myself. So I think, I'm thinking the cat is out of the bag. They have a lot on me. I don't think we can retract that. We can not redact that. We're not, in the office. And so now, moving forward is we just have to detox and hopefully help others around us to detox and to stop engaging, just like don't engage them. That will start, hopefully, like Kelly says, some will go under, some will hit the wall and say, hit the rock bottom. Okay, what do we do now? Talk to Kelly, talk to Lori and other guys who will show you the way, show me the light. Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? That's how I see it. But, like I say, if everything goes according to plan, we haven't learned anything. So we will be experiencing bumpy ride, and along comes whole bunch of lessons. So I think, if you don't mind, Jake, let's go back to Laurie. She wanted to do the demo. Go ahead, Jake. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just real quick. My plan is it's not really focused on convincing the public. My plan is to get in with the insurance companies. If you get into the insurance companies and convince them that you have a trustworthy product that allows them to base their policies on, then the game's over. Everybody has to have insurance. Insurance, that goes to code modernization. How much stuff out there? There's $25 billion in the next 3 years of code that's broken, that the older generation, the you all original ones, COBOL, everything like that. We go to the real power. We go after the people that actually make the decisions that you all have contacts with. We have the technology. I have and I can show you the tests. We get it. I just don't have the access. You gentlemen do. We get into there, then the public doesn't have a choice because the public doesn't know what's good for them anyway. And I don't mean that from sitting up on top of a hill looking down, but they don't understand how dangerous AI is. They're sitting there looking up a recipe for that night's dinner. They don't get that there are national security implications on the verge of being made by this technology that you can't trust. And so, it's that I think we at least part of it, use your all's connections, your all's influence to get in to actually institute the changes at a corporate level that will cascade down, not to invoke, top-down economic policy, but a top-down philosophical policy that people don't realize they need and may never realize that they need, may never realize that the shift even took place, but protects everybody in the betterment of the future anyway. That's the thankless fight that we're fighting anyway. We're fighting a fight that most people don't even realize is going on. And so we have to get in. Joe Blow over here don't give a damn because he doesn't even know what AI stands for. There's a lot of people out there as tough as it's to imagine. I got friends, close friends that have no clue, never been on ChatGPT, but they don't realize that even if they're not interested in it, their lives are going to be affected by it no matter what. And so it doesn't matter if they don't care or use it. We have to, we're kind of like the standard bearers here. We're doing it for the greater, I hate that term, greater good, but for the more responsible future, the better future. I'm doing all this for my daughter. I could give a damn about any of it, honestly, but I want a future for my daughter that isn't based on, you know, somebody up high just saying, yeah, let's, you know, autonomous drone blow this place up, you know, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I'm staying. So I'm done. I'm off the soapbox.
Sure, thanks. So I spent more than 20 years in my career trying to help organizations improve their practices, and you know, XP, and then later with Woody's more programming and teaming, and the results are pathetic. People just don't want to do it, right? Why? Because they can afford not to. Everybody's paying lip service. When you walk in and say, would you like to improve your technical excellence? Of course, who wouldn't? But then when the rubber meets the road, nobody's touching shit. And they're just going through the motions and all that. So I've done, you know, I kind of given up on that. Selling technical excellence, in my experience, is like selling life insurance. Everybody wants it, nobody wants to pay for it, and etc. However, my hope, and this is again something that happened last year, but now I'm starting to question it. I feel like AI may be the Trojan horse that will kind of smuggle in, this need for, because it's now to the power of 100, and now before all these like defects and things were hitting slow, and we had time to recover and oops. But now with this avalanche, I'm hoping it will be like, whoa, you know, now we need to really get our act together and see how we deal with this. So that may be the multiplying factor, a rude awakening, or may not happen. Maybe again, they will just say, who cares? Another day, another dollar, one day closer to retirement. I don't give a shit. I don't know. But that's the hope. To your point, Jake, can we, yes, we can offer all the motherhood and apple pie. Are they going to buy it? Yes, lip service, everybody's going to agree. Well, show me the money. Nobody's going to pay for it, right? So there's got to be a way. This is what Kelly is talking about. There's got to be a way to monetize and start going with this. All right. I think, Lori, you wanted to do a demo, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This was alongside the browser. Ashbel was the first idea for us to perhaps build this novel, really amazing idea that I think Alex, and was it Thomas's idea, or was your idea, Alex, or everyone?
It was my idea. I thought it was the stupidest shit I ever said, and Thomas immediately jumped on it because Thomas is a lateral thinker. He thinks laterally, and this is something that is extremely valuable for this guild. As
Thomas thinks to the rest of the world.
Yeah, I love lateral thinking. Edward Bono. Actually, one day when you come visit, I'll show you. I have this ball with 11,000 words and phrases that are inside, and you can roll it. This is from Edward Bono, who invented, I think, patented lateral thinking. And then the name of the game is to get together for the brainstorm and roll the ball and take, there's like a little strips of plastic with printed words and phrases. Take 3 out of, and then make something out of it. Just randomly 3. We can maybe make an app to do the same thing. It was before software, right? And so these are the lateral thinking exercises where you really open up and you do your OODA pattern, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you guys know about OODA. No, another thing, another beautiful thing coming from military. God, looks like all these good things come from wars and military. Just like, please.
War is
all technology comes from military, Alex. You know that.
I know.
All progression happens because of it. I hate to say it, but it's true.
It is.
It's a power hungry society we are, and so expansion and things like that.
Yeah. And we are indolent, so unless there's a kick in the butt, and fire in the belly, nobody's going to touch anything. We're just coasting, and then, hey, Germans attacking. Okay, let's invent a computer to calculate the angle. Anyway.
Get some Navajos to speak and we'll win.
Yeah. Okay, Laurie, sorry, I
Yeah.
infringing on your time. Go ahead.
I think that is, necessity breeds innovation, right? So I think war is a very big example of that. So there is the link to Haskell POC that is on a laptop or on any computer. So let me quickly share my screen as well. I've incorporated your feedback, Alex.
Already? Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Well, you should tell me.
Wow. That's fast.
This is nothing special. It's just a bit of code. So here's the idea for those who do not know. Haskell, can you read? Well, is it illegible?
Maybe enlarge a bit if you can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we have. There we have our pilot candidate. I'm gonna do this right now. Let's see what happens. Oh wait, I should have shared a tab with audio, right? You couldn't hear that.
Well, and
Once
first
again.
we need to make.
Yeah.
First, we have to set a baseline of what sounds would make the dog bark.
Yes,
make-
I
So see
hear
if you
you.
guys can give it a bark. See if you make barking sounds in there. If she'll bark, like sound like a dog.
That is a cute ass dog, Kelly.
That was a cute ass.
I know. I agree.
Yeah.
No,
So
seriously. see
yeah,
if you can get it to
I'm
bark.
yeah. Let's go to a baseline. Let's just try to establish this baseline right now. Yeah. So.
Hey, Laurie, somebody at the door. I think the bell is ringing.
Makes me bark.
No. The dog attend. Maybe the dog is distracted.
No, she's listening to it. She's doing that.
Yeah, he's looking. Yeah.
Maybe Kelly, try to put him. Maybe let's see if he comes to you.
Pema, what's a good girl? Who's a good girl? Who's a good girl? Okay.
Maybe if is it Pema?
Pema, yeah.
Maybe if Pema wants to go her way, maybe this if the sound brings her there and she barks, that's a falsification. It's not good enough. So, are you ready?
Yeah. When she played that sound, she's like, what is that? You can hear it. Yeah, listening off my background. So she's at the back, she's behind me about 5 feet. When you played that though, she immediately turned around and went like that. And when you're playing it close by, she was like, what is that noise? Like that. So is she supposed to not hear it, or is that supposed to be heard?
No, well, this is based on theory, and it's exact with the code, but the point
she's
was,
not
this is supposed to be a doorbell that it removes the inevitable going.
So sorry, Laurie. So my idea was like, if we are going to be innovating, let's invent a doorbell that only humans can hear, no dogs can hear.
Right. That's
Yes.
not it. That one is maybe a different tone.
So there are two channels, the 40 Hz and 2000 Hz. This was with Thomas's spec. It's exactly according to spec. There's just no hardware yet. Brandon.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry the dog didn't bark, but I feel like I need to go find a fire hydrant and piss on it.
Great. Well, yeah, the repo is open source. This was a POC demo. So I invite all of you to make this better. But it's just a proof of concept. I tested it with my dogs. Again, hey, it works on my computer, right?
Well, it may be a different
I think we
sound on you.
Yes, I hear you. So the 2000 hertz is an anti-startle fade, right? The 40 hertz is below the theoretical 67 hertz dog hearing floor. So there are two signals playing, right? The best to listen to this, to just check the tones, is to use a headphone. You use headphones, and it has some predictions for the battery that Thomas has spec'd out. So yeah, the software for playing through web audio is there.
Hang on a second. I'm really confused. Okay, so if you have to use headphones to hear the tone, the dog can't hear anyways. I'm not sure what the...
But maybe the
am I
dog is
missing
wearing
something here?
headphones. What
Yeah,
if
you
the
must
dog is
be-
wearing headphones?
The dog must wear the headphones. Yeah. No, this is just, again, it's a proof of concept. I didn't actually build a whole bell. I didn't have much time. So it's an emulation on a browser. Anyone is welcome to go look at the code.
So now, Kelly, how can we monetize this?
Okay, so I just want to back up a bit. So as a general goal of ours, it is to we want to test, and we want to have tests that are reproducible, falsifiable, all of these things, right? So whatever we're going to put out there, we're going to produce a testing suite for it. We're going to run benchmarks. We're going to publish those benchmarks, because when we do that, that's what actually protects us instead of a patent. So the reason that you publish benchmarks and we do all this testing publicly is that then that is a reason no one can ever patent it. So we stop anyone else from patenting it. Like, so just for example, Hushbell, is it actually something that we can get to work? Once we get it to work, is it our own IP of the Crafts Guild or of Thomas's? Yes, it is. And the way we establish that is by doing really legitimate testing and then proving it. Okay. So one thing I would say, I have a lot of background in science labs, right? So I studied like molecular biology and microbiology, where you do a lot of this kind of lab work where you have to have a hypothesis, you have to run it through all these things and standardize everything in there. And so everything has to have an established baseline. So for example, with what we're just saying, like this Hushbell test, the first thing we have to start off with is a sample set of sounds that make dogs bark, and know when those triggers are to make those dogs bark. So like there's just some basic things that I think are different in coding and testing software than in an actual scientific method in biology and things like that, where we're missing a couple of those pieces, because I don't think software engineers necessarily the testing is different, right? You do still want to isolate all the variables, though. You have to isolate all the variables, otherwise you're not going to have a good test. If you are doing something in software, right, it's much more straightforward, I think. But like, so anyways, I just think our ability to mob test things, mob debate them, mob falsify it, try to reproduce it, all of this stuff is fantastic, because then we're going to get a product that is working potentially, and that solves a real need, a real pain point that we can then get out there, and then that product establishes itself on a number of layers. It establishes itself in like all that's what the wheelhouse becomes. So this product is great, but it's not ready for release until we have. I think we shouldn't be releasing these products. I think we have to make sure we're backing up a little bit. If we're going to say that a product is out there, we don't want it to be something that's easily quickly debunked by somebody. So before we release stuff, we should go through rigorous testing so that we don't have to feel like, oh, Craftspeople put out another release. Let me see if I clone this, if it's actually going to work, just like that. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're publicly, obviously you create the GIF, but I mean, if we're going to put it on the GIF Craftspeople's website and start putting it out there, there should be like a step level to get to that. I think right now we're sort of in this knee-jerk, let's get everything populated, let's get some white papers up, let's get, like let's build a corpus of information, which is great. But I do think we need to be careful that when we're building our corpus on actual APIs, actual products, that I mean, that's what our ethos is supposed to be, right? We're not putting something out there that is untested, that we just wrote with Claude in an artifact in an hour and say that it works. Like we can't really do that. We have to, if we're going to say we're going to be craftspeople who don't put out sloppy code, who check everything to make sure it's functioning and blah, 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 right? So we need to roast everyone's architecture. Everyone's architecture should be roasted and should be tested, but not skeptical comments and then ignore it and then move on. We need to actually like, okay, let's bring in someone's code base. Let's all look at it. Let's all work on it. Let's all strategize on what's good, what's bad, what's useful, what's not useful. I mean, that's what I do. When I pull a repo like Grip, that's what I did. I pulled it and then I looked at my own code base. I looked at it. I compared the two. And then that helps me get a start of understanding that code base from my own, perspective. And then I can delve in and really start developing the tests, and then those tests are going to lead us to a product that works, right? So this is the methodology, but like I just want to say again, like I don't want to keep repeating myself, but every time we think about testing, think about how you isolate every single variable in that, so that when you are testing it against a blind, so the placebo, the double blind study, we always have to remember in science, it's different. It's slightly more complicated. It's more intense than what you guys are probably to encoding software testing, right? Because you just have to make sure it works, kind of, and then it doesn't break and mutate. But in the scientific method, if you're going to publish a report that says this works, you have to make sure that you're isolated. There's nothing that's in there that isn't mixed or meshed with actual just theory rather than actual data that's empirically backed up from isolated variables. Anyways, that's my soapbox for the day. I'll shut up now.
Well, yeah, I mean, in scientific, if we're going to be really scientific, then your lab experiment must be statistically significant, which means, depending on the area, in this case, testing it on one dog is insignificant. It just does not prove anything. You would probably have minimum 20 labs, 20 such experiments at the very minimum, but that's not enough. So the more the better. And then we calculate the standard variation and all these other statistical parameters which will corroborate our null hypothesis. But furthermore, and this is a joke experiment, but just like let's elaborate. The lab should simulate the household environment where the bell is ringing at the door, and the dogs expect when the bell is ringing that somebody, a guest, will arrive, so that will trigger them. So the first thing is all the dogs involved in the experiment will see them being triggered by the doorbell ringing. Now, when we see that this is falsifiable, now we put our hush bell and then run series of experiments to see if they don't give a shit. Now, okay, the statistically significant number of times they didn't give a shit. We are now safe to say, okay, we are confident releasing this. So similarly, we have to devise the approach for anything else. What is the statistically significant sample that will convince us that we are not blowing hot air and we are not kind of being overly excited and like kids in the candy shop? So to your point, Kelly, yeah, need to be sober, very strict, rigorous. And, one of our pillars of our guild is technical excellence, which means kicking ass. That shouldn't be, nobody could shoot holes in our technology and say, oh, you guys are like vibe coding this and this is all like really flaky and Swiss cheese. And the second pillar is innovation, which we try not to innovate. This is a Mickey Mouse example, of course. It's a joke, but it's a great opportunity for us to get together and discuss these things. And you rightly pointed out, okay, now we know at the bare minimum what is the requirement for us to ever consider publishing anything. And of course, then, the last one, ethics. Is this really alleviating people's pain? Yes, it is. People are, sitting, reading your newspaper, watching TV or something, and the dog just goes berserk because somebody's ringing the bell. All right, that's great. Thank you very much, everyone, for any other discussions or points you guys want to bring up? If not, I am going to stop the recording. Thank you so much. I think this probably has been one of the best sessions so far. Everybody's like functioning on all 12 cylinders. See you tomorrow, hopefully, everyone. Bye.